Thanks for watching another Surfray-sponsored SharePoint Search webcast. I'm Josh Noble, a SharePoint Search consultant with Surfray, and if you haven't visited one of our webcasts before, Surfray is the developer of the Ontolica Search and Preview suite for SharePoint. For more presentations all about SharePoint Search, please make sure to check out surfray.com and check out under the Resources tab. We have a whole lot of different webcast resources that are recorded there, as well as the slide decks for all these presentations. So today we have a really great presentation. We have a guest speaker, Nick Kellett. Nick's a SharePoint MVP and CTO of StoneShare, and StoneShare is an amazing SharePoint SI, one of Canada's fastest growing companies for the past 2 years in a row. So Nick and I have been working on some various different SharePoint implementations, and have been really bouncing ideas around for a concept we've started to see a lot more at several of our various different clients. And we keep coming back to this idea of the term Search Plus, which is the use of search for more than just returning results. It's the use of search outside the Search Center, the ability to actually do something with content when you actually find it in search. So I won't go into it in too much detail, but I'll hand over to Nick, and he'll go in and share a lot more about this concept of Search Plus. So Nick, if you want to take it away.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for attending. And as Josh has mentioned, we've been working together for a while now on ways, concepts to extend the out-of-the-box SharePoint search experience. We're calling it Search Plus, and I hope that what you see today will be good food for thought. So first of all, I just wanted to talk about what Search Plus is as a concept. Then we're going to talk about ways that you can actually enable it in your environment. We won't go into technical implementation details, although I'm happy to follow those up offline, but we will talk about it, at least at a high level, how you can achieve this. So not just the concept, but how you can go about doing this. And again, I'll be hopping back and forth into a live environment to show you examples of this. So first of all, before I talk about Search Plus, I want to talk about your users. And I want to describe them, and I think the best way to describe them is they're essentially the digital equivalent of people who are picking berries. And that may seem like a very odd idea, a very odd concept, but I think it'll make sense if you think about it. They're really information foragers. So they go out there every day and they try to find information that's relevant to them from a whole mass of stuff that's out there. And it's often very difficult for them to do this. So essentially, we want to help your berry-picking information foragers with these Search Plus concepts. So essentially, Search Plus is a series of related concepts that allow you to help people gather content information together from a variety of sources. You need to make this easy for your users to find. It has to be appealing for them. They have to want to do this, and they have to be able to act on these results that they receive. And really, if you can combine those concepts together, you're achieving Search Plus. And the end result of this is that you're going to have dynamic user experiences that are really driven by search activities. So the first concept is gathering content together. Now, obviously, you have a lot of information in your farm, and you probably pulled in information from file shares and from a variety of different places. But if you're only searching on that, you're actually not taking search to the level that it could go. There is a concept in SharePoint 2010 called search federation. And again, if you think about it, a lot of search engines are out there with a lot of different systems and content, and they're all searching their own content. And wouldn't it be great if you could actually have your search engine talk to those search engines and return results that may be meaningful for your users when they're actually searching for things? So the concept of search federation is a very great one. And essentially the way it works is when a user makes a query to your search engine in SharePoint, if you've set up a connection, a federated search connection, that query will be forwarded to that other search engine connection, where its own index is responsible for providing this request. That request comes back and is displayed to your user alongside the content that your search engine has gathered as well. So they actually see at least two sets of content. And this can provide a lot of meaningful results that you may not have had if you were only searching on your own particular content. And it's actually quite easy to set up. If you go into SharePoint in Central Administration, you have a concept of search connectors, and there are a variety of these. You can search across your own farms. You might have an internal farm and an external farm. You could federate those. You could have a farm located in one region of the world and another located on the other side of the world, and those could be federated. And you can also federate live web services. So there's a number of connectors for things like Google and Bing and Yahoo. And in this case, I'll show you an example of YouTube in a moment. So hopping over to my demonstration here, if we're looking at a basic search experience, you can see if I were to do a search, I'm only seeing content that's available in my environment. But if I add a connector, in this case to YouTube, first of all, a query will be run on my content, which you can see here. And now on the right-hand side, this YouTube results has popped up. And I'm actually able to see thumbnail previews of these YouTube videos that may be related to my particular query. So as a user, I now have more choices than I would have had otherwise. And they're very interactive choices. I can actually click on this link to view more results. And you can see on the lower left-hand side, it will actually take me off to YouTube and use the YouTube search engine at that point. So this is a very interesting capability. The results are not blended together. They're kept separate, which is also a good thing from a usability perspective because you don't actually control these results. You don't know exactly what content is being indexed or how it's being indexed. And you want to make it clear to users that these are two separate sets of content. But it's still very relevant because they're going to be finding a lot more information than you could necessarily provide them with. And one of the reasons I like this concept is because you can really take advantage of what's out there on the internet, and you're not having to reinvent the wheel by trying to pull outside content into your farm, which makes your farm big and unmanageable, or constantly going out and searching on other people's results when they might already have better results for you. And again, this is very simple to set up from a central administration perspective. As an administrator, you would simply log in, and there's the ability to set federated locations inside the search application. And when you do so, you're going to be presented with a series of connectors that are based on a gallery that Microsoft allows you to download. And these are some of the connectors that I mentioned. We have Bing, we have Google, we have Yahoo News, there's Flickr. I was using the YouTube connector, and you can even roll your own if you want to. So I encourage you to explore Search Federation if you haven't already done so. It's very, very powerful. So that's an important concept for gathering content together. There is one thing I wanted to mention around that, and that is the possible impacts. And you may be wondering what I mean by that. But if you think about it, you don't actually know what's happening on those external sites. And if you do a search today on Google or Bing, you'll see often that there's a safe search flag there that you can determine what level of safe search you want applied. It's because you actually have no idea what content is being crawled by these engines that might be returned to you. So you have to be careful about what you're federating. You also have to be careful for the users. Because you don't control that external content, it may be changing quite regularly. So you can't guarantee what they will or won't see in this external content. Some days it might be very relevant and very meaningful, and then other days not at all. And another possible impact is that when a user clicks one of these links, they're actually going off to an external site. So if you think about that for a second, first of all, it means you're possibly moving them from your internal SharePoint farm to some other service. And second, when they get there, it may be very difficult for them to come back to your farm. The user experience might be different. Well, it will be different. And so you have to weigh up the pros and cons of this approach. But I think it's definitely a very compelling option. And again, there's that example of the YouTube Federation. So the next thing you want to do as part of Search Plus is you really want to make this content that you've gathered very easy to find because it's actually everywhere. It's everywhere inside your portal, your federated content. And the value of the content actually depends on its context because if you think about it, the value is really dependent on who the user is who's searching, where they're searching, and what time they're searching. And one person who's searching for a piece of information today may not need that piece of information tomorrow. Another person may not need that information ever. And this is comes back to that notion I have of the berry-picking information foragers, people who are being very selective about what information they're looking for. So you have to make it easy for them to find this stuff. And another thing to be aware of is that people tend to either browse or search. They tend to either navigate through a set number of clicks that they're very used to, or they go to a search engine and they try to find certain results. And those models are actually on different sides of the spectrum, but I think you can personally combine them. You should be able to allow people to do searches, and that will provide them with a way to navigate through the content in your portal. That's actually a really great way to blend these two concepts together. So really what you want to do is you want to aggregate or combine all this information into a single roll-up list. And there's a number of ways to do this. And I'll show you an example of this and then maybe talk about the ways that can be done. So what we're looking at here is an aggregated list, and essentially this is actually a search. It's a predefined search. I like to call this a quick search. Essentially, a user ahead of time, an owner of the site, has decided that there should be a page when the users hit this particular subsite, pharmacy subsite, they're going to get a roll-up view of all the content that's relevant to that particular location. And you can see that it's actually got a list of metadata columns, including some special ones. So as a user, I'm able to quickly filter through a lot of related information. And it actually still looks like a search experience because on the side I can do my refinements. I can refine by file type and by product name and so on. What's interesting though here is that I'm actually able to navigate. As I mentioned, it's important. It's not just a search result, but actually a navigation tool. So if I determine, for example, that I want to go to a particular location, I can click on one of these drop-down links and I can open that document location. So not only am I having a predefined search experience, but I'm then able to navigate to that particular location. And as you can see here, it's a subsite. It's not even on the location that I was in. It was a completely separate location inside the site. And that's a really great user experience there. Now, there's a number of ways to do this. So again, I'm not going to talk about the technical details, but at a high level, first of all, in this case I was using the Ontolica aggregator web part. So this is something that's available with Ontolica Enterprise Search. This can also be done with Content Query web parts. You can do this using third-party rollup tools. And of course, you can write custom code. Now, I mentioned using the Search API. The Content Query web part is sort of a different beast. For this kind of functionality, I like to think about using the Search API because the Search indexer has already taken a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to caching the results, adding relevance tuning to them. You know, as you saw before, it allowed you to control the display, so the filtering and so on. So you really have a lot of options that you wouldn't necessarily have with a Content Query web part. It still looks like a search experience, which is why I'd be very tempted to either use this aggregator list, or if I were writing my custom code, I'd probably use the search engine underneath the hood just to give me a good user experience. But again, the key concept here is to have a predefined search that a user would land on. It's relevant to the particular location that they're in. In other words, that's the information that they're probably looking for. And you give them a navigation ability by providing some actions, including the ability to open that particular location. So they can use this as a navigation driver. All right. So the next thing you need to do is to make this content appealing. So you want to make it, first of all, visually appealing for users. You want to add a lot of context. You want to make it easy for them to use. You want to show them some information that they can act on. So I'm going to give you an example of some of these. First of all, you can do thumbnail previews. So if you hover over the files, you can get a quick thumbnail, which allows you to see, you know, what might be contained at least in the first page of the file. And that's a really great way to filter through a whole bunch of content in a very short amount of time. There's also a concept on a lot of websites of search tag clouds, so the ability of having tag clouds that are various sizes depending on how relevant these tags are or how many items are tagged with that particular tag. And again, saved searches. So this could be a way that you make things easy to find, but it's also a way of personalizing these results, which is why I included in this section. Because a user who probably has a My Site on this portal should be able to quickly find searches that they perform commonly. And you can do that using saved searches. I'll give you some examples of that. All right, so again, in terms of this aggregator, you can see that if I hover over these files, I actually get a document preview. And as a user, if I'm presented with 20, 30, 50 files in a row, many of which may look very similar, ideally the metadata would tell me which ones, I'm looking for, but having this ability to have a preview is very visually appealing and allows me to quickly scan and determine which files I'm looking for. So especially for larger libraries, I find this to be a very helpful feature. There's also the ability to save these searches. So in this case, it's a predefined search, but on the My Site, I can actually save searches. So these days, everybody does seem to have a My Site, and I can have a web part on there, essentially a links web part, where I can save these particular results. So if I open one of my saves in a new tab, I'm able to get that search that I'd already performed. And the reason I'm able to do that is because all the search results can be achieved using a query string. So all I have to do is I have to copy and paste the results of any of these searches that I perform, and I can go to my site and I can manually add a new link and copy them in there. Now, users won't tend to do this, although they can do this. So the better way to do this is to actually add some enhancements to your site and allow them to automatically save a search based on their current search activity. So while they're doing a search, they should be able to click a button, and then that link will be added for them automatically in their My Site. So using the Ontolica Enterprise tool in this case, I do have that ability to save. So if I were to do a search for, in this case, mobile, all I have to do is click Save, and I get a little pop-up menu that allows me to save that exact address and even have some control over which groups this appears for. And who can see it. So my colleagues, only myself, it's a personal search, or everybody in the organization can see this saved search. Now, this isn't magic. Obviously, as I mentioned, it's a URL that anybody could copy and paste. What I'm finding, especially with the Search Plus concept, is users themselves won't tend to actually necessarily do this. Even if you train them to do this, it's often better to pre-populate these links or make it as easy as possible for them to do this. So even though it might seem very easy to come over here and copy and paste and then go to the My Site, they won't do that unless you make that very easy for them to do. So I find that, especially when it comes to this sort of functionality, it's always best to do things for the users as much as you can. Okay, and then I think the big one when it comes to Search Plus, and these are some good concepts over here, is really allowing users to act on these search results. So there's a number of ways that you can act on search results. And what do I mean by act on them? Well, if you think about it, the out-of-the-box search experience is really just you put some words in a text box, you press a button, and then there's a series of files that show up. If you click one of those files, that file opens, and that's pretty much all you can do there. So it's not really a gateway to anything else. You're just finding a file, and then you're opening the file, and that's it. That's the end of your search experience. And often when you do that, you don't really have a way to go back to where you were, so there's not really a navigation option or any other option other than the simple act of opening up that file. So there's a number of ways in Search Plus that you can allow users to act on these search results. First of all, you have the ability to set search alerts. There's RSS feeds, and I'll show you examples of that shortly. These are available out of the box. There's also a series of search result actions that you can add to your search results, and I'll tell you how to do that as well. And I can give you some real-world examples of these. So we'll show you eDiscovery, which is something that Microsoft uses actually inside SharePoint. We've had requests from customers to do bulk archiving. So if you do a search for certain files you want archived, you should have the ability to automatically archive them based on those results. We've had customers who want to combine managed metadata terms with their search results to perform really impressive searches. And these are all ways of acting on these search results. So it's not just a passive series of links anymore. It leads you on to sort of bigger and better things and dynamic experiences. All right. So first of all, as I mentioned, the out-of-the-box search is actually a fairly limited set of things that you can do. So I've done the search, and really all I can do at this point is I can click on that link. I can't even easily view the location it's in without copying and pasting the link from down here and opening that up into a new tab. So that's a little bit difficult. But I do have a couple of other things that I can at least do. First of all, I can set an alert, and this is again something that I think users tend not to do, and this could be pre-populated for them. But just as with anything in SharePoint, you can set a customized alert to allow you to get notifications when the search results improve, and that can actually be really, really powerful. And the second thing you can do is you can get an RSS feed, which really can accomplish the same results. So if you were to click on an RSS feed in any SharePoint search, you'll see that it displays the results. What's interesting about this is you can use these RSS feeds as part of an application. So a lot of systems consume RSS feeds. They use it as a way of feeding data into them because it's a standard. There's no reason why you couldn't use search for that. In fact, that's probably the easiest way to get search results into other systems, especially systems that aren't built on SharePoint or aren't built even in Microsoft technologies. So don't forget the fact that there are actually RSS feeds here. But at this point, we're pretty much out of actions. So one of the things that I'm interested in is actually extending the search results so that at this point a user would have extra options. And Ontolica Enterprise Search has the ability to extend these actions, and Surfray has also released a free search results web part which can give you some limited actions as well, both of which are very, very useful. In this case, I'm looking at the Enterprise one, and you can see that already with my search results, I'm presented with a drop-down list with a variety of different things that I can do. very, very usefully, I can view the properties of this file. Right? Often you're looking at a file and you just want to see a little bit more about it because the search results may only show you the description and the title, but maybe you want to look at all this custom metadata that your users have gone to so much trouble to populate, right? That's extremely useful. The other thing you can do is you can actually end up on the destination that that result came from. So if you recall, when I'm over here, I don't actually have the ability to get directly to that document library folder that this file is contained within. So, but if I use this actions, then I have this ability in the drop-down to open the document location directly. I can view the details of this particular file. So it gives me a nice preview, including the description, some of the useful properties. And again, I'm presented with actions, so I can set tags and notes on this. I can open the document location. I can add it to my links. This is that save search equivalent that I mentioned as well. So in my site, I can quickly add this to my links. And I can send the link by email because often when you're doing searches, you're doing them on behalf of your colleagues. They're asking for something. Maybe your boss wants a piece of information that you can provide them with. So that's really, really important, this ability of having these actions, because at this point, if you think about it, search results now become a gateway to do absolutely anything in your system. And I think that's really a key concept. And I think probably the key takeaway today is this, that you should be able to set actions on your search results. And again, without going into the detail, you can do this in a number of ways. You can actually do it using custom code. You replace the search core results web part. You can use the search results web part from Surfray or the Ontoloca Enterprise Search. These are all good ways to do actions. We've been approached by customers again to turn these results into, let's say, archiving. So we might have a button here that would kick off a disposition workflow. And the confirmation that this is actually a good ability is that Microsoft themselves do this. So if you worked with records management, inside your site you have the e-discovery, which is the ability to find electronic files for legal purposes. Microsoft allows you to discover and hold content. So you can apply legal holds to content that's contained inside SharePoint. And essentially all that is you do a search on a particular site, and you would preview the results, and then you would do an action. In this case, you're applying a legal hold action. So the proof that this is a great concept is that Microsoft themselves have built this ability inside SharePoint, and so really we'd just be taking that and running with it. So I would suggest that's probably the key takeaway from this presentation, the ability to act on these search results. Because again, the out-of-the-box search experience has a limited set, but if you think about it, there's no reason these results couldn't be a gateway to an infinite number of things that users could do. And that would lead to definitely a very dynamic experience. So apart from that, I think now would be a good time to open it up to any questions. Josh?
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate the presentation, Nick. I think that really sums up, like you said, a lot of what we've been working on over the past several months as far as expanding search. So it's not just search at that point. It's actually more doing things that are just search on the back end. So if anybody wants to ask any questions, I know we run through these things in a pretty high level pretty quickly. So I'm more than happy to answer any sort of questions that you guys have via chat.
In the PowerPoint presentation that you can download, I've actually contained some tips on how to achieve this in the notes. So anybody who wants to find out a little more detail, how these things are done, definitely download the PowerPoint presentation and you'll see those inside the notes.
I had a question here from Miles. Did Nick say that Microsoft has included the e-discovery component as a standard part of SharePoint now? So Nick, I don't know if you want to respond to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So e-discovery is actually a capability that's built into SharePoint Server. If you turn on the records management functionality, it's called Legal Holds and Discovery. It's a site feature that's available inside your SharePoint sites, and you will be able to perform e-discovery actions, which is really what that capability is. So again, they're using their own search engine, and they're essentially saying, well, rather than us look for files all over the system using another mechanism, why don't we rely on the search engine, which is already doing this hard work, and we're just going to perform some actions based on those results. So yes, that's definitely part of SharePoint out of the box. Yep, and I've got some questions about Ontoloca. So first of all, we have Ontoloca Enterprise Search. Is there any value in having the free web part? you will get those actions and more. So the free web part is an excellent tool. I love it, and I always recommend it to customers who don't yet have Ontolica Enterprise Search. But that will obviously add more actions, more capabilities, including the ability to kick off custom workflows, which is really very, very powerful. That really opens up the doors here. Josh, do you have anything else to add to that?
Miles had asked if I could differentiate between the actions that are available in Ontolica versus the free result action web part that we make available. And so you can see an outline of those in the link I sent over. But the free result action web part just replaces the SharePoint or FAST core results web part, and it'll add 4 actions. It's view properties, send link via email, add to my links, and open document location. All the other result actions, such as opening the document in its source program, or some of the more social network integrated ones, or if you've joined our presentation a couple weeks ago with Nintex, integrating in custom workflows, for example, all of that is supported in Ontolica, whereas the web part is a bit more locked down to those 4 specific actions.
We have a question about Ontolica versus FAST. Josh, maybe you'd like to answer that?
Yeah. So Ontolica isn't really a competition to FAST in any sort of means. We actually have modules that sit specifically on top of FAST to help with configuration of FAST. So all 5 Ontolica modules are available on top of FAST to extend that functionality and generally make it easier to work with FAST, especially for smaller organizations that can become challenging at times. It also does things like previews, for example. FAST can support previews for, say, the first page of Word documents, the first page of a PPTX file, and a full PPTX file, but that's it. So if you have PDFs, for example, and you want to preview them, FAST can't do that natively. So something like Ontolica Search Preview on top of FAST would meet that requirement. Ontolica, maybe I should make one other note, Ontolica doesn't change the back end of SharePoint. So if you're looking for a search engine that needs to be significantly more robust than what SharePoint 2010 can do out of the box, say you need to scale to tens of millions of documents very quickly, then FAST is really going to be the place to start to look there. If you're looking at things more like enhancing the UI and the configuration interfaces, then you consider Ontolica on top of whatever platform that you're using. Yeah. And as Robert points out, yes, with Ontolica you can create your own custom result actions. And thanks, Derek again posted the slide deck for this presentation. So make sure to share that out with the community. It's beneficial to everybody out there. All right. Well, we'll kind of end it with that then. I know Nick and I will stay on for a couple more minutes to answer any questions that people might still be typing in. But obviously, you have all of our contact information. We love to chat about this stuff. So if you have any questions on on how you bring some of these things that we saw to reality, don't hesitate to reach out to Nick or I. More than happy to help there. And yeah, if you have ideas of that you want to bounce off, is this possible in SharePoint? Would I need SharePoint fast? Ontolica? What sort of development time or services or things am I looking at? More than happy to share that.